Teen mom delivers twin aliens, their abilities leave doctors in awe. How is this even possible? To find out, watch the video to the end. But first, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications to get more stories like this. Sophia gazed out of the small window of her bedroom, the cool evening air drifting through the slightly open pane. The moon hung low in the sky, bathing her face in its silvery light. At just 18, she had already faced a whirlwind of challenges. The most daunting of all was the life growing inside her, a pregnancy she hadn't expected but was determined to embrace. Life hadn't been easy for Sophia. Her parents, while supportive to an extent, had struggled to accept her situation. Her friends had drifted away, their lives consumed by college plans and carefree days that Sophia no longer had the luxury to enjoy. But despite the isolation, she found solace in the rhythmic fluttering movements of her unborn twins. They were a mystery, a miracle, and her reason to keep going. The pregnancy, however, had been anything but ordinary. Strange things began happening not long after Sophia found out she was expecting. It started with vivid dreams, visions of endless starry skies and strange, glowing constellations that seemed to pulse with life. Then there were the sensations, soft vibrations that felt like whispers from within, as though her babies were speaking to her, not with words but with feelings. Even her body had started to change in ways that baffled her doctors. During one routine checkup, Sophia had noticed faint glowing patterns on her belly, almost like bioluminescent tattoos. The doctors dismissed it as a trick of the light, but Sophia knew better. There was something extraordinary happening, something that couldn't be explained by medical science. At her latest appointment, Sophia sat nervously in the waiting room, her hands resting on her rounded belly. The other expectant mothers around her chatted casually, their laughter filling the air. Sophia, on the other hand, felt like an outsider. She had tried to ignore the subtle glances and hushed whispers that followed her wherever she went, but they weighed on her nonetheless. Sophia Ramirez? A nurse called, snapping her out of her thoughts. She stood and followed the nurse into the examination room, her heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and dread. The doctor, a kind but puzzled woman named Dr. Ellis, greeted her with a smile. "How are you feeling today, Sophia?" Dr. Ellis asked, motioning for her to sit on the examination table. "About the same," Sophia replied, though her tone betrayed her unease. "The dreams are getting more intense, and the patterns have been showing up more often." Dr. Ellis nodded, her expression thoughtful. She had been Sophia's doctor since the beginning of the pregnancy and had been as baffled by the strange phenomena as Sophia herself. The test results, though mostly normal, had occasionally shown anomalies that couldn't be explained. "I'll run another scan," Dr. Ellis said, setting up the ultrasound machine. "Let's take a look at the little ones." As the image appeared on the screen, Sophia's breath caught. The twins' outlines were clear, their tiny bodies curled closely together. But what stood out was the faint glow that seemed to emanate from them, a soft, pulsing light that moved in rhythm with their heartbeats. Dr. Ellis froze, her eyes widening as she stared at the screen. "That shouldn't be possible," she muttered under her breath. "What is it?" Sophia asked, her voice trembling. Dr. Ellis hesitated, then shook her head. "I'm not sure. Their development is unique, but they seem healthy. That's the most important thing." Sophia nodded, though her mind raced with questions. What did this mean? Were her babies normal? Or were they something else entirely? A few weeks later, Sophia was jolted awake in the middle of the night by a sharp pain in her abdomen. She gasped, clutching her belly as the pain intensified. The twins were coming. She knew it instinctively, even though it felt too early. Her parents rushed her to the hospital, their worry evident in the way they hovered over her. By the time they arrived, Sophia was in full labor. The medical team quickly took over, wheeling her into the delivery room. The labor was intense, but Sophia pushed through the pain, her determination fueled by her love for her babies. Hours passed, and finally, the first twin was born. The room fell silent as the nurses held the baby up for everyone to see. The child's skin glowed faintly, the same bioluminescent pattern Sophia had seen on her own body now visible on her baby's delicate frame. The child's ears were slightly elongated, tapering to gentle points, and their large, luminous eyes seemed to sparkle like the night sky. "What?" one of the nurses whispered, her voice filled with awe and confusion. Dr. Ellis quickly stepped in, her professionalism taking over. "Wrap the baby and keep them warm," she instructed. "We'll run tests later." Moments later, the second twin was born, displaying the same extraordinary features as their sibling. The delivery room buzzed with quiet murmurs and exchanged glances, but Sophia was oblivious to it all. Tears streamed down her face as she held her babies for the first time. "They're beautiful," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "My little stars." The medical staff stood in stunned silence, their gazes fixed on the glowing twins. Even Dr. Ellis, who had seen countless births, couldn't hide her amazement. As the hours passed, the news of the unusual birth spread throughout the hospital. Doctors, nurses, and staff whispered about the glowing twins, their curiosity growing with each retelling. Sophia, however, refused to let her babies become a spectacle. She held them close, marveling at their tiny faces and feeling an overwhelming sense of love and protection. Dr. Ellis visited Sophia's room later that day, her expression a mix of concern and fascination. "Sophia," she began gently, "we need to run some tests to understand what's happening. Their development is unlike anything we've ever seen." Sophia hesitated, her arms tightening around her babies. "Are they okay? That's all I care about. They appear to be perfectly healthy," Dr. Ellis reassured her. "But their unique traits, well, they raise questions. Questions that might not have simple answers." Sophia nodded slowly, knowing that the world beyond the hospital walls wouldn't understand her children the way she did. They were special, not just because of their appearance but because of the connection she felt with them, a bond that went beyond words. That night, as Sophia cradled the twins in her arms, she noticed something extraordinary. When one of the babies began to fuss, their glowing patterns pulsed gently, as if responding to their emotions. The other twin quickly joined in, their patterns syncing in perfect harmony. Within moments, the room seemed to fill with a calming energy, and the twins settled peacefully. Sophia's breath caught. "You're trying to talk to me, aren't you?" she whispered, her heart racing with awe. The twins' glowing patterns pulsed softly in response, almost as if they understood her. Sophia smiled, her fear giving way to wonder. Whatever they were hers. And she would do whatever it took to protect them. The days following the birth of Sophia's twins were a whirlwind of emotion, speculation, and wonder. Hospital staff cautiously came and went, their curiosity barely hidden behind polite smiles. Sophia noticed the way they lingered just a bit too long during routine checkups or exchanged glances whenever they thought she wasn't looking. Word about the glowing twins had spread far beyond the hospital walls, though no one had dared to mention it outright to Sophia. The twins, now named Orion and Lyra, captivated everyone who saw them. Their soft, glowing patterns shifted and pulsed, almost like a living light show, and their luminous eyes seemed to pierce straight into a person's soul. But it wasn't just their appearance that left people in awe, it was their uncanny ability to sense emotions. One morning, Sophia was feeding Lyra when a nurse entered the room to check on them. The woman looked tired, her eyes heavy with the weight of a long shift. Lyra turned her gaze toward the nurse, her glowing patterns brightening slightly. Almost immediately, the nurse's tense expression softened, and a small smile crept across her face. "That's strange," the nurse said, her voice tinged with amazement. "I was feeling so stressed just a moment ago, but now I feel calm." Sophia smiled knowingly. "They do that," she said, glancing down at Lyra. "It's like they know what people are feeling." The nurse crouched beside Sophia, her eyes wide with wonder as she studied the baby. "It's more than that," she murmured. "It's like they're soothing me, on purpose." Sophia nodded, her heart swelling with pride. "They're special," she said softly. "I've known that since the moment I felt them move inside me." The nurse hesitated, then reached out to gently touch Lyra's tiny hand. The baby's glowing patterns shimmered in response, and the nurse let out a small gasp. "It's like they're alive," she whispered, referring to the glowing designs. "I've never seen anything like this." Meanwhile, Orion was undergoing a series of tests in the hospital's pediatric wing. Sophia had reluctantly agreed to allow some medical examinations, as long as they were non-invasive and conducted with care. Dr. Ellis had promised to oversee everything personally, ensuring that Sophia's wishes were respected. The doctors conducting the tests were baffled by what they found. Orion's physical development was advanced for a newborn, his reflexes sharper and more precise than they should have been. But what truly astonished them was his brain activity. The scans showed levels of neural activity far beyond what was typical for a baby his age. It's almost like he's processing information at an accelerated rate, one doctor remarked, staring at the scan with wide eyes. This isn't just extraordinary, it's unprecedented. Dr. Ellis nodded, though her expression remained thoughtful. Whatever their origins, these babies are rewriting what we thought we knew about human development. But we need to be careful. This isn't just a scientific breakthrough, it's a family. And we need to respect that. Sophia spent as much time as she could with both babies, refusing to let them out of her sight for long. She couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease as the hospital staff's curiosity turned into something more intense. One evening, as she rocked Orion to sleep, she overheard two nurses whispering outside her door. "Do you think they're, from somewhere else?" one of them asked, her voice hushed. "Like aliens," the other replied, a hint of disbelief in her tone. "I mean, look at them. It's hard not to wonder." Sophia's grip on Orion tightened slightly. She had feared this reaction, that people would see her babies as something other than human. But to her, they were perfect. It didn't matter where they came from or why they were different. They were her children, and she would do whatever it took to protect them. The tension reached a boiling point when news of the twins' abilities leaked outside the hospital. Within days, the building was swarmed by reporters, their cameras and microphones creating a frenzy at the entrance. Headlines splashed across social media and news outlets, speculating about the alien twins born in a small-town hospital. Sophia watched the chaos unfold on the small TV in her room, her stomach twisting into knots. She had never wanted this kind of attention, especially not for Orion and Lyra. They were just babies, innocent and fragile, and now the world seemed determined to turn them into a spectacle. Dr. Ellis entered the room, her face lined with concern. "Sophia, I'm so sorry," she said, sitting beside her. "We're doing everything we can to control the situation, but the news is spreading fast." Sophia glanced down at her sleeping twins, their glowing patterns faint but steady. "I just want them to be safe," she said quietly. "That's all I care about." Dr. Ellis placed a reassuring hand on Sophia's shoulder. "We'll figure this out," she promised. "But you need to be prepared. There are going to be people, scientists, government officials, who want to study them. You have every right to say no." "I won't let them take my babies," Sophia said firmly, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "They're not experiments. They're my children." The next few days were a blur of meetings and decisions. Hospital administrators debated how to handle the media frenzy while scientists from across the country requested access to the twins. Sophia felt like she was caught in the eye of a storm, her world spinning out of control. But through it all, Orion and Lyra remained her anchor. Their unique abilities continued to manifest in small but extraordinary ways. One afternoon, as Sophia sat with them in her room, she noticed Lyra's glowing patterns pulse in sync with the beeping of the heart monitor beside her. It was as if the baby could sense the rhythm of the room, harmonizing with its energy. Orion, meanwhile, seemed to have a calming effect on everyone who held him. One nurse, who had been particularly stressed after dealing with the media outside, left Sophia's room visibly more relaxed after holding the baby for just a few minutes. "They are more than just special," Sophia murmured to herself, watching her twins with a mix of awe and love. "They're a gift." As the hospital struggled to manage the growing attention, Sophia found an unexpected ally in Dr. Ellis. The doctor had become fiercely protective of Sophia and her babies, advocating for their privacy and ensuring that no one overstepped their boundaries. During one particularly tense meeting with hospital administrators, Dr. Ellis spoke up. "These babies are not subjects for study," she said firmly. "They're human beings, and their mother has the right to decide what's best for them. If we lose sight of that, We're no better than the people outside who see them as a spectacle. Sophia, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, felt a surge of gratitude for Dr. Ellis. She didn't know how she would have navigated this storm without the doctor's support. The turning point came when Sophia received an unexpected visitor, a kind-hearted journalist named Rachel, who had been following the story closely. Unlike the others, Rachel wasn't interested in sensationalizing the twins' uniqueness. She wanted to tell Sophia's story, the story of a young mother fighting to protect her children in an unforgiving world. "I want people to see you and your babies for who you really are," Rachel explained, her voice gentle but earnest. "Not as some scientific anomaly, but as a family." Sophia hesitated, unsure if she could trust anyone outside the small circle of people who had supported her. But as she looked into Rachel's eyes, she saw sincerity and compassion. "Okay," Sophia said finally. "But only if I get to tell my story my way." The interview aired a week later, featuring Sophia cradling Orion and Lyra in her arms. She spoke openly about her love for her children, the struggles of being a young mother, and her determination to protect them from a world that didn't always understand them. "They're not aliens," Sophia said, her voice steady but emotional. "They're my babies. And they're beautiful, just the way they are." The response was overwhelming. Messages of support flooded in from around the world, drowning out the initial wave of skepticism and fear. People were captivated by Sophia's bravery and the twins' undeniable charm. For the first time, Sophia felt hope that Orion and Lyra could grow up in a world that celebrated their uniqueness instead of fearing it. The interview changed everything for Sophia and her twins. For weeks, the media frenzy surrounding their birth had felt like an inescapable storm. But now, the public perception was beginning to shift. Where there had once been skepticism and fear, there was now curiosity and admiration. People began referring to Orion and Lyra as the miracle twins, captivated by their extraordinary appearance and abilities. Messages of support poured in from around the globe. Parents of children with unique traits reached out to Sophia, sharing their own stories of love and resilience. Scientists and educators expressed interest in studying the twins, not out of exploitation, but to understand and celebrate the mystery of their existence. Despite the positive attention, Sophia remained cautious, determined to shield her children from becoming a spectacle. At the hospital, life became slightly more manageable. Security had been increased to keep reporters and strangers at bay, and Sophia was finally able to enjoy quiet moments with her twins. Dr. Ellis continued to act as Sophia's advocate, ensuring that the hospital staff respected her wishes. One morning, Dr. Ellis entered Sophia's room carrying a clipboard and a warm smile. "I have some good news," she said, taking a seat beside Sophia. "The hospital has agreed to discharge you and the twins as early as tomorrow." Sophia's eyes widened in relief. "Really? Are you sure it's safe?" Dr. Ellis nodded. "We've coordinated with security to ensure a discreet exit. You'll be able to take the twins home without any interruptions." But she hesitated, her expression turning serious. "There's something we need to talk about." "What is it?" Sophia asked, her heart sinking. Dr. Ellis set the clipboard aside and leaned forward. "Sophia, you know the world isn't going to forget about Orion and Lyra. Even after you leave here, there will be people, scientists, journalists, even government officials, who want access to them. You need to be prepared for that." Sophia nodded slowly, her gaze shifting to the twins, who were napping peacefully in their bassinets. "I just want them to have a normal life," she said quietly. "I don't want them to grow up feeling like they're being studied or judged." Dr. Ellis reached out, placing a comforting hand on Sophia's shoulder. "Then we'll do everything we can to make sure they're safe and happy. But you'll need support, a lawyer, a trusted circle of people who can help you navigate all of this." Sophia swallowed hard, the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. "I'll do whatever it takes," she said firmly. "They're my babies, and I'll protect them no matter what." The following day, Sophia and the twins were discharged from the hospital under the cover of early morning. A private car, arranged by the hospital, whisked them away to Sophia's family home. Her parents, though initially hesitant about Sophia's pregnancy, had grown deeply attached to their grandchildren and welcomed them with open arms. For the first time since the twins were born, Sophia felt a sense of peace. She settled into a routine, caring for Orion and Lyra with the help of her parents. The twins' abilities continued to manifest in subtle but incredible ways. Orion's calming presence seemed to soothe even the most chaotic situations, while Lyra's glowing patterns often mirrored the emotions of those around her, creating an unspoken connection. One evening, as Sophia rocked Orion to sleep, her mother entered the room, carrying a stack of mail. "You've been getting letters from all over," she said, setting the pile on the dresser. "People are fascinated by them." Sophia sighed, glancing at the unopened envelopes. "I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing." Her mother smiled gently. "It's both, I think. But remember, you're the one who gets to decide what's best for them. Don't let anyone take that away from you." Sophia nodded, her resolve strengthening. She knew that her journey as a mother wouldn't be easy, but she was determined to give Orion and Lyra the life they deserved. Despite her best efforts to maintain privacy, Sophia's story continued to capture the public's imagination. News outlets speculated about the twins' origins, with some claiming they were the result of a rare genetic mutation and others suggesting more fantastical explanations. Theories ranged from extraterrestrial ancestry to divine intervention, each one more far-fetched than the last. Sophia tried to ignore the noise, focusing instead on raising her children. But it became increasingly clear that their lives would never be entirely normal. Strangers occasionally recognized her in public, their gazes lingering on the twins with a mix of wonder and curiosity. Sophia learned to smile politely and walk away, her protective instincts kicking in whenever she felt someone was getting too close. The tipping point came one afternoon when a black SUV pulled up outside Sophia's house. A man and woman in suits stepped out, their serious expressions immediately putting Sophia on edge. They knocked on the door, and Sophia's father answered, his posture tense as he spoke with them. "We're from the Department of Advanced Biological Research," the woman said, flashing a badge. "We'd like to speak with Sophia Ramirez." Sophia, who had been watching from the living room, felt a surge of fear. She stood and approached the door, her heart pounding. "What's this about?" she asked, her voice steady despite the anxiety bubbling inside her. The man spoke this time, his tone measured but firm. "Ms. Ramirez, we're aware of the unique circumstances surrounding your children. We'd like to discuss the possibility of conducting further studies to better understand their development." "No," Sophia said immediately, her arms crossing protectively over her chest. "They're not experiments." The woman raised a hand, her expression softening. "We're not here to take them away," she said. "We're only asking for your cooperation. This could benefit science and humanity as a whole." Sophia shook her head, her resolve unwavering. "They're my children," she said firmly. "Not your test subjects. Now, please leave." The agents exchanged a glance but didn't push further. "If you change your mind, you know how to reach us," the man said, handing her a business card. Sophia took the card reluctantly, her jaw tight. "I won't," she said before closing the door. Her father placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You did the right thing," he said. "Don't let them pressure you." Sophia nodded, though the encounter left her shaken. She knew it wouldn't be the last time someone tried to interfere in their lives, but she also knew she couldn't back down. Orion and Lyra's safety depended on her strength. That night, as Sophia rocked Lyra to sleep, she noticed something extraordinary. The baby's glowing patterns pulsed softly, forming intricate shapes that seemed almost deliberate. Sophia stared in awe, wondering if Lyra was trying to communicate with her. "You're amazing," she whispered, brushing a kiss against her daughter's forehead. "Both of you are." Orion, who was lying in his crib nearby, cooed softly, as if responding to her words. Sophia felt a wave of warmth wash over her, the bond between her and her children stronger than ever. In the days that followed, Sophia decided to take control of her narrative. She reached out to Rachel, the journalist who had previously interviewed her, and asked for her help in creating a documentary about Orion and Lyra. But this time, Sophia would be the one telling the story, a story of love, resilience, and the extraordinary bond between a mother and her children. "I want people to see them the way I do," Sophia explained during a meeting with Rachel. Not as mysteries to be solved, but as miracles to be celebrated. Rachel nodded, her eyes shining with admiration. "We'll do this your way," she promised. The documentary, titled A Mother's Light, premiered a few months later. It featured intimate footage of Sophia caring for Orion and Lyra, interwoven with heartfelt interviews where she spoke about her journey. The twins' unique abilities were showcased in a way that highlighted their humanity rather than their differences. The film was met with widespread acclaim, touching the hearts of viewers around the world. Messages of support flooded in once again, and for the first time, Sophia felt a sense of peace. She had reclaimed her story, and in doing so, she had created a world where her children could be celebrated for who they were. In the wake of the documentary A Mother's Light, Sophia's life shifted in profound ways. The heartfelt portrayal of her journey as a mother to Orion and Lyra touched millions. What had once been a relentless media frenzy began to settle into something more positive. People no longer saw her twins as oddities or anomalies. They saw them as children, deserving of love, respect, and protection. Sophia was overwhelmed by the outpouring of support. Letters and emails flooded in from parents, activists, and scientists who wanted to offer their encouragement rather than their curiosity. Some of the most touching messages came from children who wrote about how Orion and Lyra had inspired them. One letter, written in bright crayon, stood out to Sophia. It came from a little girl named Ava, who had drawn a picture of the twins surrounded by stars. "Dear Sophia, I saw your movie, and I think your babies are like superheroes. They're not scary. They're beautiful. I hope one day I can meet them and tell them they made me brave." Sophia smiled, her heart swelling with emotion. She taped the drawing to the refrigerator, a daily reminder of how far they had come. Despite the newfound support, Sophia remained cautious. She knew that not everyone had embraced her story. Skeptics and opportunists still lurked in the shadows, waiting for a chance to exploit the twins' uniqueness. To ensure their safety, Sophia worked closely with a team of trusted advisors, including Dr. Ellis, Rachel, and a lawyer named Ben who specialized in privacy and family law. One evening, as Sophia sat at the dining table reviewing paperwork with Ben, she glanced toward the living room, where Orion and Lyra were playing on a soft mat. The twins were now a few months old, their glowing patterns more pronounced and intricate than ever. They had started to babble in a way that felt almost intentional, their coos and giggles filling the house with warmth. "They seem happy," Ben said, noticing Sophia's gaze. "They are," Sophia replied with a soft smile. "They're my whole world." Ben set down his pen, his expression turning serious. "I've been working on securing their legal protections. We're filing for a court order to prevent any unauthorized studies or invasive tests. No one will be able to touch them without your consent." Sophia nodded, her resolve firm. "Thank you, Ben. I just want them to have a normal life, or as normal as it can be." The legal protections were just one step in Sophia's journey to safeguard her children. She also began working with Dr. Ellis to better understand Orion and Lyra's abilities. The doctor had become a close friend and ally, treating the twins with the care and respect they deserved. During one of their sessions, Dr. Ellis observed Orion closely as he interacted with Sophia. The baby's glowing patterns shifted in response to Sophia's voice, pulsing in rhythm with her tone. When Sophia laughed, the patterns brightened, and when she spoke softly, they dimmed. "It's almost like they're attuned to you," Dr. Ellis remarked. "Their connection to you is extraordinary." Sophia nodded, cradling Lyra in her arms. "I feel it too. It's like they know what I'm feeling before I even say it." Dr. Ellis smiled. "They're teaching us as much as we're learning from them. This isn't just about science, it's about understanding a new kind of bond." As the months turned into a year, Orion and Lyra continued to grow and thrive. Their abilities became more pronounced, surprising Sophia and those around her. One evening, while Sophia was reading to the twins, she noticed Orion staring intently at the pages of the book. The glowing patterns on his skin pulsed in time with the story, almost as if he were visualizing the words. Sophia paused, tilting her head. "Orion, are you following the story?" The baby cooed in response, his patterns shimmering brightly. Sophia's breath caught as she realized that Orion wasn't just reacting to her voice, he was understanding it. Dr. Ellis confirmed Sophia's suspicions during their next session. Their cognitive abilities are extraordinary, the doctor said, reviewing the results of a recent assessment. They're processing information at a level far beyond their age. It's as if they're constantly learning, absorbing everything around them. Sophia felt a mix of awe and responsibility. Her children were more than special, they were extraordinary. And it was up to her to ensure they used their abilities for good. One day, Sophia received an unexpected invitation from a nonprofit organization called Unity for All, which promoted acceptance and understanding of diversity in all forms. They had seen the documentary and wanted Sophia to speak at an upcoming event about her experiences as a mother to Orion and Lyra. At first, Sophia hesitated. The thought of standing on a stage in front of hundreds of people made her anxious. But when she thought about the message she could share, the opportunity to show the world that her children were more than their abilities, she knew she couldn't pass it up. The event was held in a large auditorium, filled with people from all walks of life. As Sophia stepped onto the stage, the audience erupted into applause, their support giving her the courage to speak. "Thank you for being here," Sophia began, her voice steady despite the nervous flutter in her chest. "A year ago, I became a mother to two incredible children. Orion and Lyra are unlike anyone I've ever met, not because of how they look or what they can do, but because of the way they make me feel." She paused, glancing at the twins, who were sitting in the front row with Dr. Ellis and Rachel. Their glowing patterns pulsed softly, a comforting rhythm that steadied Sophia's nerves. "They've taught me that love isn't about understanding everything. It's about accepting what we don't understand," she continued. "Orion and Lyra remind me every day that our differences are what make us beautiful. And I hope that by sharing their story, I can inspire others to see the beauty in the unknown." The audience rose to their feet, the applause echoing through the auditorium. Sophia felt tears welling in her eyes, but this time, they were tears of gratitude. She had found her voice, not just as a mother, but as an advocate for her children and all those who felt different. In the weeks that followed, Sophia's speech went viral, sparking conversations about acceptance and diversity around the world. Schools used her story as a teaching tool, and communities organized events to celebrate uniqueness in all its forms. Orion and Lyra had become symbols of hope and unity, their story breaking down barriers and building bridges. But for Sophia, the most important moments were the quiet ones, rocking her children to sleep, watching their glowing patterns dance in the moonlight, and feeling the unbreakable bond they shared. One night, as she gazed out at the stars with Orion and Lyra in her arms, Sophia felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in a long time. The journey had been challenging, but it had also been transformative. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for certain: together, they could face anything. "You're my little miracles," she whispered, kissing each of their foreheads. "And I'll love you forever." The twins cooed softly, their glowing patterns shimmering like constellations. Sophia smiled, her heart full as she held them close. The universe was vast and mysterious, but in that moment, it felt small and infinite all at once, because it was hers. The months following Sophia's speech brought even more changes to her life and the lives of Orion and Lyra. While the public's fascination with the twins continued, Sophia took careful steps to balance their safety with the opportunity to share their message. She wanted their story to be a beacon of hope, not a source of exploitation. With the help of Dr. Ellis, Rachel, and Ben, Sophia established boundaries that ensured the twins' privacy was protected. They declined offers from corporations and media outlets that wanted exclusive access to the family, focusing instead on meaningful opportunities that aligned with their values. One such opportunity came in the form of a children's book series inspired by Orion and Lyra. Written in collaboration with Sophia and a talented author, the books told whimsical stories of glowing siblings who used their unique abilities to spread kindness and understanding. The first book, The Light Within, became an instant bestseller, loved by children and parents alike. Sophia read the book to Orion and Lyra often, her voice soft and full of love. Though the twins were still too young to fully understand the story, their glowing patterns always brightened as she read, as if they recognized themselves in the tale. As Orion and Lyra grew, their abilities continued to evolve in ways that both amazed and challenged Sophia. By their second birthday, it was clear that their connection to emotions was deeper than anyone had anticipated. They could sense not only the feelings of those around them but also project calming energies to soothe distress. One day, while Sophia was preparing lunch, she accidentally dropped a glass, the sharp crash startling her. She froze for a moment, her hands trembling as she stared at the shattered pieces on the floor. Before she could react, Orion toddled over, his glowing patterns pulsing gently. As he reached for her hand, a wave of calm washed over her, and her breathing steadied. Sophia knelt down, pulling Orion into a hug. "Thank you, sweetheart," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You always know how to make things better." Lyra joined them moments later, her patterns glowing softly in response to the shared moment of comfort. Sophia marveled at how intuitive her children were, their abilities rooted not in power but in connection. Sophia's parents played an active role in the twins' upbringing, providing a support system that allowed Sophia to focus on building a stable future for her family. Her father, who had been skeptical of the twins' uniqueness at first, had grown to adore them, often referring to them as "my little stars." One evening, as the family sat together in the living room, Sophia's mother brought out an old photo album. She flipped through the pages, pointing out pictures of Sophia as a baby. "You were always a little light in our lives," her mother said, smiling fondly. "And now you're raising two more." Sophia laughed, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I couldn't do it without you both. Thank you for being there for us." Her father patted her hand. "You're an incredible mom, Sophia. Orion and Lyra are lucky to have you." Sophia looked at her children, who were playing with blocks on the floor, their glowing patterns reflecting the soft light of the room. "I'm the lucky one," she said softly. As the years went by, Sophia worked tirelessly to give Orion and Lyra a childhood filled with love, learning, and exploration. She enrolled them in a small, inclusive preschool where their uniqueness was celebrated rather than feared. The other children quickly grew to love the twins, fascinated by their glowing patterns and gentle natures. One day, Sophia received a call from the preschool director. "Sophia, I just wanted to let you know how amazing Orion and Lyra are," she said. Today, during story time, one of the children got upset and started crying. Before any of us could comfort him, Lyra walked over and held his hand. Within seconds, he stopped crying and started smiling. Sophia's chest tightened with pride. "That sounds like Lyra," she said with a laugh. "She has a way of making people feel better." "She really does," the director agreed. "Your children have such a positive impact on everyone around them." Despite the challenges they faced, Sophia and the twins found joy in the small, everyday moments. They went on nature walks, gazed at the stars through a telescope, and spent hours drawing pictures that often resembled constellations. Sophia cherished these moments, knowing that they were creating a foundation of love and resilience that would carry them through any storm. One particularly clear night, Sophia took Orion and Lyra to a nearby hill to watch a meteor shower. Wrapped in blankets, they lay on the grass, their eyes wide with wonder as streaks of light danced across the sky. "Look, Mama," Orion exclaimed, pointing at a particularly bright meteor. His patterns glowed in sync with his excitement, illuminating the night. "It's beautiful," Sophia said, pulling them both close. "Just like you too." Lyra turned to her, her luminous eyes reflecting the stars. "Mama, are we like the sky?" Sophia smiled, her heart swelling with emotion. "Yes, sweetheart. You're like the stars, bright, unique, and full of wonder." The twins giggled, their glowing patterns shimmering like constellations. In that moment, Sophia felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. As the twins grew older, their story continued to inspire people around the world. Sophia remained their fiercest protector and advocate, ensuring that they had the freedom to explore their potential while staying grounded in the love of their family. Orion and Lyra's abilities, though extraordinary, became just one part of who they were, two bright, curious, and loving children who had a unique gift to share. One evening, as Sophia tucked them into bed, Lyra looked up at her with a sleepy smile. Mama, do you think we'll always glow? Sophia brushed a strand of hair from Lyra's forehead, her voice soft and full of love. I think you'll always shine, no matter what. Your light comes from who you are, not just what you can do. Half asleep, murmured Mama's light too. Sophia's eyes filled with tears as she kissed them both. You're my light, she whispered, and I'll always be yours. As she turned off the light and stepped out of the room, Sophia paused in the doorway, watching the soft glow of her children as they drifted off to sleep. The world was vast and full of uncertainty, but in that moment, it felt small and safe, because it was filled with love. And in that love, Sophia knew they would always find their way.